But yeah, anything else you want to talk about? Unless you want to rave about the Superman stuff.
Oh yeah, the Superman motto, right? Um yeah, I mean, what do I say? So, the original. Okay, so I want to ask, do you remember? I don't know if this is in the Zack Snyder movie or not, but the Joss Whedon movie, when he comes in Joss, when he resurrects and comes and punches fucking what's his name? Uh, the guy with the two horns. What's his name? The
Steppenwolf.
main villain. Steppenwolf. Yeah. When he comes and punches the guy and he's like, "I'm here, truth, justice." Does he say the American way in that movie?
No, okay, so here's what happens in that movie. So, he goes up to Steppenwolf, and he's like, "Hey, I like justice, but I also am a big fan of truth." And then he punches him. He doesn't say anything about the American way.
Okay. So he doesn't say it as like say the entire thing. Like,
Yeah, he just kind of mentions it as like a cute reference, which I thought was kind of
okay,
cute.
okay, yeah. Because I remember seeing that. I was like, oh, okay. He referenced his motto. So I was like, okay, yeah, yeah. So that thing. So there's something I saw on Twitter today. I don't know if you can can send it to you. Just hold on a second. So I mean, of course, art is influenced by culture. Of course, they're influenced by the current trend, which is fine.
Wait,
But
repeat that.
so I was saying, art is influenced by culture, right?
Right.
And they're just going with what the current culture is, like you don't want to be too loud about being pro-America because, make America great again. That's Trump's thing, and whatever. Um, you don't want to be like that. That's just what the current culture is like, which is fine, I guess. But when it comes at the integrity of like your character, that's when I have, uh, yeah, that's when I have an issue. Like when it comes at the integrity of like you have a like how old is Superman right now as like a character? When was he founded? Like 100 years ago? Was it
Not 100. Um,
it was
but
the
if
30s, right? I think it was the 30s.
it's like 80 or 70 years, it's around that time frame.
Yeah, I think he was founded in the 30s. But there is a timeless quality to Batman and Superman. Like Batman and Superman, they're gonna outlive us. They're gonna outlive the the actors. They're like James Bond, basically. I mean, I think they're older than James Bond.
Yeah, I
So
think
when you
they
have
are.
something, yeah, so when you have something timeless, and when you change that to just, I don't know, appease the current culture. I mean, that's when you have things like the cringy stuff, like if you remember Battlefield 5, like they try to put like weird LGBT stuff in, like you had like a red-headed woman in the trailer of Battlefield 5, and they try to double down on it, and say it became like a very strange relationship with the fans because the fans were like, "What the fuck is this? This is just you're just trying to pull over an agenda, like your whatever the current cultural agenda into your games." And okay, we get it that like art is influenced by culture and whatnot, but come on, like have a little bit more integrity. And Superman and Superman, Batman, all these characters, Spider-Man, or the Marvel characters as well, they have like a timeless quality. That's why they have endured all these decades. That's why we are still excited for Robert Pattinson's Batman. We still want more Batman. We still want more Superman. because there's a timeless quality. However shit our culture is, the universe of Superman and Batman and the universe of Iron Man or whoever, they will remain untouched, because that's a fantasy world. So when they change that to kind of reflect our fucking cringy culture, our stupid ass post-Trump political bullshit culture, then I don't have like a fictional world to escape in. Then when I look at Superman, I see, okay, now he's also in on this fucking uh, our shit. He's in on our shit. When I want to consume Superman, I want to be out of it. I want to go into Superman's world. I want to be, you know, in a different universe. I don't want to deal with post-Trump and whatever left wing, right wing, conservative, libertarian, whatever. I don't want to deal with all that. I want to be in Superman's world, where things are much more simple. But now they're just making it more complex. So that's my rant. That's why I don't like that, they had to change his model.
All right, let's talk about it. I see that you have shown the
Yeah, so that's like something else.
No, that's
Uh,
okay. It still connects to like the overall. If you want to talk about like the Superman gay stuff, we can also talk about that too. Should be fun.
Superman gay stuff. So
Yeah.
his son, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's his son, yeah. But
I
but
mean,
it
that's whatever.
makes
That's a new character. They can
uh,
do whatever. I don't care.
actually it's not. But the thing is that the thing that I like about that is then you can clickbait and put in the title Superman gay question mark. It's really good. It gets them views. Okay. Okay, so
Okay, but so read the tweet and read like the two replies. The third reply is basically the essence of what I'm trying to say. Uh, so he says the author is just trying to make a statement in our world without thinking about the consequences of the comic book world, of the actual lore of the comic books. That's where the character is supposed to actually be referencing. So when you sacrifice the integrity of your work to make a fucking political statement about so in this case it's environmentalism, but for Superman's case it's something else. It's not to be like too pro America for whatever reason, because we're post Trump, all that. So I think that's just lame.
okay,
Have
so
you have you
yeah,
read
there's quite a lot that I want to talk about based off of your last statement and obviously this statement. So hold on, let me write. Change. Okay. Okay, I'm going to try my best to respond to all of it. So first of all, a timeless character. Yes, this is basically a timeless character. Superman and Batman will always be timeless characters. However, there are going to be changes that are going to be made to these characters over time. I think that's perfectly natural. Obviously, for instance, Batman. Obviously, in the golden age of Batman, he could obviously kill as many people as he wanted to. But when the Silver Age rolled around the Codex Authority, he had to make the no-kill rule, which the no-kill rule has become a very, very important part of his character. That I think leads to a lot of interesting things. Sure, there can be good Batman that kill, but because of this change, I would argue that they have made a much more interesting Batman. Also, ways to screw it up. True. So, you were mentioning briefly about the Battlefield stuff, right? About how cringe that was. So, what I think is the huge difference for Superman changing his logo and or his changing his motto and like Battlefield, I think Battlefield goes way over the edge, right? So to me at least, like people tend to view politics or political statements as art as either like it's here, it's here, it's here. Here's my side doing this. Here's your side doing this. Your side is doing all this, right? But for me, to me, it's like a spectrum in terms of like, hey, there's this guy that's like, okay, this guy's gay, right? And then we have on the other spectrum, which is like everybody's like a queer SJW and everybody's like super oppressed and stuff like that. We have like completely two opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of how much this changed. The reason why I don't have a problem with Superman's new motto is because I think this is a relatively small change, right? Even though, like, yeah, sure, it's his motto, and yes, sure, there is like a lot of it is pretty important. It's not like the worst thing to come out of it. If anything, it's pretty like not politically incorrect. It's not politically correct. It's just kind of a better tomorrow. It's not making a super hardcore statement. So also saying that the fictional characters cannot escape argument, I find this kind of argument kind of appalling. Fictional stories all the time go through things that reflect our current history. A lot of, especially Marvel back in the 80s or 90s, was super into politics in terms of like making political statements. Even though, yes, they're not like a super hardcore SJW, they're still definitely making political statements. I mean, Black Panther was literally created as a sense for a political statement. Milestone Comics was basically made to make a political statement about black artists, characters in general in the comic industry, right? And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Now, what I will say is that how you interject politics into stories can be done very differently, right? I think The Watchmen does an excellent job of doing like politics versus like The Dark Knight Returns Part 2. Okay, it's kind of cringe, but I wouldn't say it's like the worst thing. And then obviously you have the climate change stuff. Speaking of the climate change stuff, actually, I think that that's pretty cringe. I ranted about it before in the Wayne Manor server and in my friend's server, and I was like, hey, this is kind of dumb. I like TT's work. TT, fun fact, actually worked on the Injustice comic book. I do like TT's work. Having said that, I really just, I don't know. It really strikes me as like either against the world building like you were saying, or just kind of cringe overall. And not how I would see the gay stuff, but how I definitely would see the climate change. I think it's really kind of really preachy. I think it does a very poor job about communicating that. But then again, I haven't read this particular issue yet, so maybe I'll check it out and see how it does for itself. So if you want to respond to that, go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I agree with, okay, so yes, like how I actually started my statement. Yes, art does reflect our culture to a certain extent, right? You still have to be, you still have to have the integrity of your own in universe, right? So if, let's say, if you want to have, some level of, reflecting our culture, and also some level of in-universe consistency, then Superman has he has no reason to give up his mod. Okay, first of all, I do acknowledge it's not a big change. It's not something that's really too controversial. I think it's a motto. He doesn't even say it that often. It's not as big a deal as Batman trying to kill everyone. It's not that big of a deal. But it's just a trend that I'm seeing where it's coming up where it's not necessary, there's nothing. Okay, let's just put it this way. The biggest movie that's come up in the last few years was Infinity War and Endgame, right?
Right.
It's a hero ensemble, but who is the leader of our heroes? It's Captain America. Yes, we all know America is very controversial. Yes, Trump is a fucking whatever, and he's made it even more divisive. But Trump is not the only one who embodies America. He's the one who says "Make America Great Again." Wasn't before him. It wasn't just his, his fucking campaign or his group of supporters that represented what, or whatever it was. Why can't Superman represent America? Why can't Captain America represent? It's in his name. Why can't like why should anyone who actually likes America just give it up to, oh, if um if you say you like America, that's you're just like a cringy Trump supporter, whatever. Why give it up because Trump was there? That's my issue. Like, why should DC give up the integrity of their characters because we're in post-Trump era or whatever? So that's my issue. Like, not even Captain. I see this kind of issue with Captain America also with what Marvel does with Captain America. They made him a fucking Hydra agent. Like when his very inception as Captain, like he showed up. His first appearance was him punching fucking Hitler in the face. Like the very conception of Captain America was he was anti-Nazi, and then you make him into a Nazi because now being pro-American is conflated with being alt-right and white supremacy or whatever. Because that's just the current culture. So you are completely, that is like much more offensive than anything that's happened with Superman. Of course, Superman is like that motto change is very minor in uh, when you compare to what they did with Captain America, which was just make him come. It's much worse than making what do you call Batman shoot people. It's making Batman worse than the Joker. That's how bad it was. They made him a fucking Hydra agent. What the fuck? Like you can't. So thankfully, of course, uh, the movies didn't do that, and his arc has ended, and that's gonna be it's set in stone now. His story in the MCU. So I'm glad about that. Thankfully, the cringy comics didn't influence the story in the movies. So that's what I mean. Yeah, I agree with you with how severe it is. It's not that severe, the motto change. But with this motto change, what can I expect in the coming Superman comic? I mean, I know they don't give a shit about the integrity of the characters,
Oh,
but now I'm much less interested because now I know they don't give a shit about the integrity of the characters. Why? Because fucking Trump? What does that have to do with anything? And by the way, so you were saying, Superman is it's not just about America. Like he's popular worldwide. He is popular. And do you know like people's attitudes towards America worldwide? It's generally positive, other than parts of Europe. But outside of America, most people like America. It's pe- people who hate America are mostly inside America. That's just how it is. So if you're gonna argue for, marketability outside America, yeah, keep the motto as the original, the America stuff, the American way that he usually says. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
okay. So let's talk about this. So first off, you mentioned Captain America and how he was the center of Endgame, right? The issue, it's not necessarily like an issue, right? To me, it's like, okay, Captain America is America, but I think that, I don't think he made any out, quote unquote, like statements like, oh yeah, America, fuck yeah. He didn't go like guns blazing. It's like, oh, super America, super patriotic. I would say like the first
Uh,
Captain America
well,
movie was like way more patriot. What?
yeah, yeah, but that's the thing with Superman saying truth, justice, and the American way. Like he doesn't have to start fucking shooting guns in the air and be like yeehaw, fucking burgers or whatever. I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is that Superman can just be Superman and say truth, justice, and the American way. He can still just be Clark Kent and be a reporter and save Lois Lane and be in the justice. He can do all that stuff and say truth, justice, and the American way. But why did that? What it's it's just like what you're saying with Captain America. He doesn't go out of his way to be like, oh, super patriotic and be like, America this, America that. He is just himself. He does things what he thinks is right and what he thinks is wrong. Um, he does things himself. Like he is an individual. He's not just American. He is Steve Rogers. So, so he doesn't really, like embody America in like some kind of overt sense. He has that name. He does represent America in his name and how he, that he's kind of proud of it in the sense that he lives his values and he thinks that that's how Americans should see the world, I guess, because that's how he does. And with Superman doing what he does and saying true justice and the American way is his way of showing that that's how he has embodied American values. Why does it have to be like American values is all fucking conservatives and Trump? That's what I'm saying. Why does it have to be like like so weird and like why do you have to give them that? Like once you are taking America out of Superman, then you're kind of giving it away to like whoever's picking it up, and all traders are gonna pick it up. Fucking, whatever conservatives or whoever or Trumpers are gonna pick it. Why give it up? I don't understand. Like, why not give it to someone wholesome like fucking Clark Kent?
Okay, so I kind of have to come in here. Like, you mentioned at one point that, like, this isn't that big of a change. And like I said, I do think, like, the stuff against, like, Captain America, him being a Hydra agent. Again, I don't know.
That's
I haven't really, like, watched or, like, gone through a ton of Marvel comics outside of, like, Defender stuff. But other than that, I really haven't, like, touched upon a lot of Marvel stuff. So if you're talking about the Marvel stuff, I don't know how well that's executed, or if that's even a trick, or if that's just a quick plot twist. I don't know what's going on with that, but I will like give you that and concede and give you that point. If that is an issue, yeah, I think that's an issue. However, saying that, you also mentioned the fact that like he doesn't even say that often. Then honestly, why are we even arguing about this? This is something
yeah.
that's
So
like
I'm not saying that it's like again. I'm not saying it's that major. It's not. I'm just saying it's cringy because it came up in the thing, and like, why do you have to go out of your way to like change his? It is his motto, so it is kind of important, but he never says it that often. So it feels like it's something they can get away with, and they did. Like it's like a sneaky thing, you know. So that's what I'm sensing,
it's sneaky.
and again, it's that kind of integrity thing.
uh,
It's like
sneaky.
you're just kind of like
Sorry.
undermining his character. He grew up in America. There's like a story, Superman, the Red Sun, where the very point of Red Sun is that what if he grew up in Soviet Russia, like where he's brought up with different value system. The very point of Clark Kent is that he was brought up by this kind of wholesome American American family, and he grew up to be this guy because he grew up human as a human being, as an American human being. So he has American that's why he says truth, justice, and the American. That's his that's his lore. Like he is brought up in America by an American, by American parents. So yeah, it's
Yeah, so I
when
do
when
also
you
want to mention some other thing that you mentioned as well. This one's, I know I'm kind of a bit derailing, but I do want to touch upon this. And I think this is mostly at the crux of your argument, right? You mentioned a lot of the time that being patriotic is like a Trump thing, right? If you're patriotic about something, it's got to
yeah.
be
So
connected
so
to Trump.
what yeah. So what I'm noticing is that as soon as people say like I like America, people like kind of equate you to be like a Trump. Well, that's not the case.
Okay,
Like
so there is like
for most people, it's not the case.
yeah, I know, I get that. But like to be honest, like one of the reasons why I think that has been associated with America is because people on the other side have that has said, "Hey, there's systemic racism in these issues. There are like people that are being discriminated against. I think that there is an issue with the healthcare, right? And then people point to that and say, you're not American, right? Or say that, hey, I think our immigration system's kind of poor, and I think that we should like bring in more immigrants, right? You're not American, right? So this has kind of been a thing that's been going on both sides for a while. I'm not going to sit here and say that like Trump isn't associated with like being super proud American. I totally believe that. Like, especially when you go to, like, these Trump rallies or, like, watch these Trump rallies and then they're, like, blasting, I'm proud to be an American. And it's like, yeah, I totally get that. The right is way more patriotic than the left. But having said that, I do think that a lot of people on the left are patriotic. And they just aren't adamant about it. Because, again, if they do that, they'll be seen as, like, super right-winger. And if the right-winger says, I kind of don't like America, then it's the other way around, right?
I mean, I would say, I mean, I don't want to make this like a left versus right thing. Because we're talking about Superman. And what I'm trying to say is that, first of all, it's just inconsistent with his lore. He grew up as like an American kid with American parents. And the very point of a story like Red Sun is exploring the idea of what if he was born in a different in a different part of the globe. America's complete opposite in fact Soviet Russia. So when you do this, I think first of all it's just inconsistent, like a huge slap in the face of Superman's lore. You're just being inconsistent, and you're just being fucking pussies in the wake of like this weird, because you find yourself in a controversial position, so you're just letting the integrity of your character go.
So I think that there is a difference between, okay, so I'll definitely will give you this, that being like born in America, right, he definitely grows up with certain values. But I also think that this is like the people too. I do think that there is a difference. Like if a Superman landed in Iran, Korea, or Japan, or China, or Europe, or Britain, I think that there is definitely, or Mexico even, like there is a ton of other like possibilities that can be done with this Superman. Like even growing up in a lab in the Flashpoint comics, right, there is differences between how these characters are brought up. Having said that, just because he doesn't add American in his motto doesn't necessarily mean he isn't brought up like as an American, right? He was born in like a rural town in like some part of like in America where he was like kind of hanging out in Smallville, right? And I don't think that just because he changes his motto to a better tomorrow, that doesn't necessarily means that he hates America or dislikes America or like it disavalues it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's completely fine. But what I'm saying is that, like, why did they do this change? Like, why do you think they did this? Like, can you give me an answer? Like, why do you think they did?
I think to me, it was just to be a little less controversial. I think they did it to
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
So you give them that saying an American way in his model is controversial. No. That's the bad part. That they have actually conceded the idea that saying, oh, Superman says truth, justice, and the American way. That's controversial. Like that's stupid. And to actually
okay. So first off, we're talking about like you were talking about lore, right? So lore is important, and like I said, I don't think that Better Tomorrow is necessarily against his lore. However, let's face it, the fact that capitalism, this is a capitalist feature, right, is that they want to appeal to as much part of the world as you want to, right? You want to appeal to every part of the world. Superman appeals to people in Russia, China, Britain. Yeah, sure, there are Americans, but Superman is like a global phenomenon. So is Batman, right? And to me, I guess, to be a little bit less controversial, I think it's pretty simple. A better tomorrow. It's literally just that simple. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And yes, there are people. The U.S. is the second most hated country in the world by all other countries. It's not just the people inside the U.S. They pulled from people from outside the U.S.
That is completely irrelevant. That is completely irrelevant to, like, in terms of this discussion, that's not relevant to anything.
What, the fact that we're but I just thought that we established that the reason why they did it was to be less controversial.
Yes, but like you can oh my, there are actual dictate. There's fucking North Korea. There's like complete anarchy in places in Africa. There are actual places to legitimately hate. If people are stupid and they want to hate America for, okay, America has its problems, I grant you that, but it's not like the actual second worst place in the world. It's just not.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know. Not as in like infrastructure or as in like people, right? I think that they hate America either because of like history or definitely I think the biggest reason why they dislike America is that number one, we're very conflicted. No one can choose a side over here, which means like usually in like countries like Britain or like other European countries, a lot of people are unified generally on a general idea versus America tends to be pretty diverse, which also means the fact that we're going to get a lot of different ideas and opinions. And to a lot of people, that's kind of frustrating because, why aren't you on my side? You have half people that are with me and half the people are not. And also considering the fact that the U.S. is very heavily interested in messing with like foreign countries, right? Like literally the Iraq War was something that we should have never been a part of, yet we were, right?
Okay. This is going way off topic, but I mean, okay, I get the point that you're trying to make. That America, of course, has a very big. What they do influences the entire world. Okay, what America does influences the entire world, and what Superman is, he is like popular not just in America. He's popular everywhere. Everyone likes Superman. Everyone wants to be Superman. Everyone watches Superman. That's fine. So I understand your point, but I want to bring up any popular Japanese character, Goku, Dragon Ball, or One Piece, or any. They don't apologize for being Japanese. They don't like. Okay, nothing controversial is happening in Japan, but they don't like give up. And but Goku and like Dragon Ball, they've been around from the 80s, but it feels like they have like a timeless quality, just like Superman. These characters from Dragon Ball, Goku, Vegeta, Frieza, all these people, and they've remained consistent throughout the time. So that's and they're not like just I don't know they have integrity in them. That's what I'm trying to say. And they're not just going to give up their characters because of current trends or whatever. So the fact that this is much more overt to me, basically, compared to like something very subtle, such as, so to me, like if you're making Superman's son gay or bi, it's a new character. You're making a new character. Okay, you have complete creative freedom to do whatever you want. Now I can debate about why you made a new character bi or why you made a new character gay. That's a different thing. But Superman and Clark Kent is established, and now you're changing it. Like that's basically changing. You're changing the character, and it's not the same character. So that's my point.
Well, I think that, okay, so there might be another reason why they're doing this, right? It's not just to be less controversial. I think, though, one of the reasons that they actually did this is because Superman, like as of right now, is on Warworld and he's fighting Mongul, right? And he's outside the Earth, and he's gonna like take down this ruthless dictator all by himself, right? I think that they might be like, again, this is a might. I don't know for sure, but I think they're gonna like push Superman a bit more in the sci-fi direction, where he's gonna go into outer space, which seems like what they're doing so far, right? This is the whole reason why Jonathan Kent is currently Superman on Earth, right? So yeah, I like, again, I think like change is a good thing sometimes. I really do think that like changing something as simple as this, I don't think it's something necessarily wrong or it's like necessarily an issue. And I do think that people when they freak out about like politics and stuff is granted. But I do think that like politics has always influenced us. Like even certain global events have affected us, especially Japan. You brought up Japan, and it was massively influenced by Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Obviously, that was the creation of Godzilla, right? You know,
Yes.
Superman,
Yeah.
actually, to be honest, like, Superman being American isn't actually much of a problem. Actually, Superman should be trying to relate to the Jews the most because the creators were Jewish immigrants. They came here and they were like, we can have a character alienate from like another planet and have him come and be raised in like in a new world, essentially, right? In a new country, right? I think that's kind of like the idea behind it, you know? But if you have any
Okay.
other like reasons, I would be interested to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there are, I mean, the way I see politics, yes, of course, like, I don't like that they did this. Just personally speaking, of course, what the arguments that I was making previously, that was just like the bigger picture of what Superman is, and his character being butchered a little bit, his lore being butchered a little bit, and that just makes him much more flimsy and less timeless to me. So of course, his character might not change at all. He might just be Clark Kent as he was this entire time. Awesome. But what this hints at is that he is going to change. So that's not too exciting. But personally speaking, um, I don't very much like Trump, but but at the same time, I like a lot of things about America. And I hate the fact that Trump is the one who represents the kind of people who say, there's amazing things about it, or America is great to live, or America does great things. I hate the fact that when people say there's good things about America, you're completely equated, like you're just equated to. Um, so that's my personal rant. That why should like good things about America shouldn't just be equated to Trump because he was kind of disgusting um, as a person, as a president, as a representation of America. He was kind of disgusting, and the fact that he had to own the fact that he owned that kind of what do you call it? The phrase of "Make America Great Again." That's really sad that he had to be the one to own that phrase, "Make America Great Again." Because there are great things about America, and I don't think Trump knows what those things are, unfortunately. But he was the one who owns up to it. So I want fictional characters who are actually awesome and so like Steve Rogers to in the culture to represent what being American means. You know, it's it is standing up for truth and justice, and like we'll get into it some other time. The soldier. There is some politics in Winter Soldier where he does represent America, the idea of freedom. Like how Project Inside runs, and he's like, "This is not freedom." Like that's his political message in that Winter Soldier. So I want characters like that and those values, freedom, other stuff like First Amendment, to be represented in other characters outside of fucking Trump and that kind of that side of the conservative movement. So that's my personal rant, which is kind of not related, but it's sad to me, for me to see, like cool, wholesome characters like Clark Kent giving up their motto, just to, like to be non-controversial. That's sad to me. Yeah, so that's what I have to say.
Yeah, and I think a lot of your issues don't seem to stem from that. It seems to be like the frustration, to me, at least what it sounds like, that Trump has kind of, like, not necessarily poisoned, but has kind of like been so much of the influence of like being patriotic that it kind of makes it hard to be patriotic when everybody makes a current assumption about you, right? And I do,
Exactly.
yeah, and I do think that's an issue. Like, I'm not gonna disagree with you and say that that's a bad take. I think that's totally fair. Like sometimes I want to like adjust for like systemic change in our system, but I would say I'm pretty American too. I think I love this country, dude. The fact that we have a law that can burn your own country's flag is the coolest thing ever. That's
It
so
is.
cool.
It is.
So
Because do that in basically half the other countries in the globe, and you're going to be put in jail, at least in jail, if not be killed. So that is pretty awesome that you can do that in America. So, you know, yes, so that's the part which I'm disappointed in DC that they don't recognize that there are, if they want to like be influenced by culture, then they should think bigger. They shouldn't just think, oh, like they shouldn't be as dumb as, oh, left versus right, and we're gonna pick this that. Like, be a little bit like, if you wanna make cool characters, make them nuanced, you wanna make them fucking blue hair, trans, whatever, but also make them say, I love America. Like, if you wanna have them be a little bit more nuanced or whatever, like, be complex with your character. Why just give up to this kind of weird left versus right dichotomy? There's much more richness in between.
yeah, and actually, now that you brought it up, I think the actually funny enough, the people that are the most patriotic consistently about America are immigrants. They're people that come from other countries and then get into this
Yes.
country and really love this country. I think that's cool, honestly.
Yeah, I mean that was my point about like the how like, America's perception outside of America. I think most America hating people are inside because they just kind of take it for granted. It's whatever. But America's perception outside of America, I mean, people are generally very positive. People want to immigrate there. People want to like import stuff from there, or like brands from there, or buy fucking Xboxes, which is American, or
Yeah.
um, but like generally perception outside of America is very positive, and of course that's why immigrants inside of America. Why did they immigrate to America? They think America will give them more opportunities than their own home country. So yeah, that's the general perception outside of
So,
America. Yeah.
is that it?
So
Did
yeah,
we do it? Did we conquer all?
I think we conquered everything,
Nice.
and we will have to do that the soldier thing soon.
I've just got to organize my notes, make sure it's all good, ran through my arguments a few times, and then I'll be good. Yeah.
I got to preface before we get into it, before we get into the debate thing. I actually don't want to have a debate per se. I just want to give, because a debate will mean that we'll have to be going back and forth with your view and my view, right? What I want to do is that, okay, I want to listen to your view, of course, like what you feel are like the bad points of Winter Soldier and whatnot. But then, the video that you sent me, the Winter Soldier critique, that 1 hour long video. So he starts out with um, saying that there are good things about the movie. It is a good movie. It's not the worst movie, and it's not even like a mediocre MCU. It's a good movie, and there are much worse MCU movies. And then an hour straight of not pointing out a single positive thing about the movie. Like he starts his video with saying there are good things about the movie, and then he doesn't point out. Okay, I get it. That's the very point of the video. He wants to be very harsh and critical about the movie. I get it. But if you want to say that you're being objective, you also have to be pointing out the good things. If your entire video is just pointing out the negatives, that's not objective.
Okay, so let me actually um,
So, okay, okay.
let me partially defend that, right? I think that there is to a degree, I do think that there is a responsibility to try and point out good things and bad things about the movie. But when you actually do the video, when you actually make a video, especially in the video of that caliber, which I've done multiple times, which two that I'm currently working on, right? There is an issue with how it's flowed, right? So YouTube analysis critiques, right, need to be flowed in a certain way. It sounds very strange saying it out loud, but there's a weird rhythm to a lot of these things. And the rhythm essentially goes is that if you want to point out something good, you have to do something at the very end of this collection of bad things, and then at the very beginning or before you start the next section, right? So the idea is that I can't go bad, bad, good, bad, bad, right? That would be really weird. I can't point that out, stuff like that. So I would probably do good, bad, 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 bad. Or I do bad, 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 good, right? So there has to be a certain flow to it. And I do think that he does point out things that are positives, but I think when you're talking about these certain kinds of videos, they're not necessarily objective. They're a new type of critique that you've seen. It's mostly in the same way as Far From Home, or not Far From Home, Far From Good that Southpaw did. It's in reference to the bad. If you want to see somebody that does good and bad, it would personally be either Shady or Batnik. Versus SK and Southpaw are more so about, okay, here's the bad things that I've collected. Here's this reason why. Here's this reason why. Here's this reason why. Right? You know, to me at least, I do think that's an issue. But it just kind of depends on the rhythm and the difference of the video. You know.
Okay, okay, that's fair. But I do, so for when I watch a critique or a in-depth review or a retrospective, I want a full picture. I want to see good, bad, everything. Good, bad, anything in the middle, some things that are just kind of a little, not here, nor there. I want to see everything. So that video is just way too heavily leaning. I mean, it is just a full, all the bad stuff together. And of course, I do agree there are issues here and there with the movie. So that I'm not disagreeing with that. But if you don't have a balance with the good, especially when you're prefacing your video with, okay, it's a good movie, and you can enjoy it, blah, blah, this and that. And then your entire video is just shitting on the movie. That's not balanced to me. But okay, I understand you watch different types of content creators. Content. I get that. So, during our discussion, I want to present my view of what I like. Now you can of course counter that, and you can counter my points if I'm wrong or if you disagree or whatever. But what I mainly want to do is that he says in the beginning of the video, there are good things about the movie. And during our discussion, I just want to point out the good things, and I just want to point out, I think those good things generally outweigh the negatives. Because his very point was the negatives outweigh the positives. But I have the opposite view. So I'm going to acknowledge some faults of the movie, which is fine. Every movie has faults. But my point is that generally it's a good movie because the positives outweigh the negatives. That's the approach I'm gonna take for that discussion.
Okay, sounds good to me. Like honestly, you were talking about like debate versus shock. Like I'll title the thing, obviously, the YouTube as a debate, but it can be more of a
Make
discussion.
it spicy.
Yeah, I'm gonna put. He said what in the thumbnail. It's gonna
Oh
be great.
yeah.